Good morning. We begin the news today with President Tinubu vow to end insecurity in northern Nigeria. Tinubu said that the security challenges confronting the northern region will soon be overcome. That his administration has put in place decisive measures to end the activities of criminal groups across the country. The president reaffirmed his commitment to securing the nation and preserving the legacies of the past national heroes. Still on insecurity, the African Democratic Congress, ADC, has accused President Tinubu of creating the impression that some victims matter more than others. The opposition party urged him to provide updates on residents abducted from Woro community in Kayama, Kwara State, and the fate of victims still being held in Kayama, Borno, and other parts of the country. Also, the Nigerian police has launched a coordinated operation to rescue Kebbi State High Court Judge, Justice Farouk Hazard Bunza, who was abducted by suspected bandits in Bunza local government area of the state. Meanwhile, success has been recorded by the troops of Sector 2 Operation Fashinyama, OPFY, who has rescued 48 kidnapped victims following a terrorist attack in Megama village in Kauru Namuda local government area of Zamfara State.
Moving on, presidential candidate of Nigeria Democratic Congress, NDC, Mr. Peter Obi, has unveiled what he described as a radically different governance blueprint for Nigeria that he will implement if he wins the 2027 presidential election. Obi pledged to personally lead the fight against insecurity, rebuild the economy through production, wage a more transparent war against corruption, slash the cost of governance, and ensure leadership by example. The former Anambra governor renewed his call for the resignation of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, advising him to step aside, retire in peace, and allow those with fresh energy and commitment to take the affairs of the country. Obi also reaffirmed his earlier promise to serve only one term if elected. Obi said leadership was about keeping one's word and delivering measurable results. Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has ruled out further extension of the voter registration exercise, which ended by midnight on Sunday. Some opposition political parties and civil society organizations have called for another extension over concerns that millions of eligible voters could be disenfranchised from the 2027 general elections. INEC National Commissioner Mohammed Haruna says the commission will not extend the deadline, saying the registration exercise cannot go on forever, as the electoral body needs time to clean the data already collected. Haruna explained that the Commission's Information Technology team and the Voter Registration Department will begin processing the data immediately after the closure of the registration window. INEC had previously extended the registration deadline by 2 weeks. Right, it's a brand new week, Rufai, and excellent to note a few wins. Yeah. First of all, I must talk about the Fansanyama rescue. It's always great to start on a good note and to give that sense of hope, that work is being done. And for those who are still in captivity, there's still hope rising for them. However, the truth must be told. And let me stay on that promise by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the commitments that the insecurity will end very soon. The truth is that, as was highlighted, I mentioned last week that we still have a number of people still in captivity in Nigeria. Let me just give a little, just a snapshot as it was then. 76, I beg your pardon, from Woro community in Kwara State. They were abducted on the 4th of February 2026 of this year. 242 from Zamfara. Abducted on the 2nd of April, 48 people in Kaduna, 42 students in Askari, local government area in Borno State on the 15th of May, same day as the children in the Really Ekiti school, the Oyo school, Oyo school were abducted. And so these are still Nigerians, young and old, still in captivity. However, today, in this conversation around the vow to defeat insecurity in the North in particular, let me take out some key points as shared by some discussants at the General Katsina Memorial Lecture. It was the third one, and the president was also represented there, and he gave his speech. I believe this was where he made the statement around ending insecurity in the North very soon. I want to talk about the involvement or some of the areas that must be addressed if we are to tackle insecurity in the north. Yes, there's the use of brute force, there's the kinetic response, but if we're going to talk about defeating insecurity in the north, I must double down on the fact that there are other areas that if they are not dealt with, we'll kill and eliminate the threats right now, but they will keep their heads will keep coming up, they will keep regrouping as long as there's a persuasion to continue. What are some of the key areas? And Dr. Usman Bugaje, political economist, in his presentation at that memorial lecture, was able to lay out some facts, including implicating the northern elites and their complicity by their lack of action. So when we look at that, we're not just looking at the presidency. I believe it's time we begin to ask the governors in the northern areas and the elites some critical questions as to what extent they've done to provide much needed infrastructure and eliminate or minimize, to a very large extent, poverty in the north. The North has been done a disservice in the last 10 years, if we're being honest. And one of the things that we've been talking about is the promotion of education, especially to the young people. It's no news that Nigeria has the largest out-of-school children in the world. And it is also no news that many of these numbers are contained in the North. What have Northern governors done in the last 10 years to address this? At least when it comes to primary education, it's their responsibility. What have they done? And so when you have lack of education, lack of aspiration, no jobs, then it's easy for them to be enticed into a life of criminality. And so to complement the efforts in the kinetic war against terrorism in the North, it cannot work if it is not complemented with the non-kinetic areas, which is a provision of infrastructure, roads, education, very importantly, access to services, healthcare. If this is not provided, then it would be easy for terrorists to come in and put in place their own government, in quotes, and the people would choose to go with that because at least they are meeting some form of their needs. So if we're looking at tackling insecurity, which the government has said they would, we cannot only depend on kinetic force. It will not work in the North. And so I think it's important. In that lecture, they talked about, and I'll take a quote from the keynote address by Dr. Bugaje. He says, the troubles of the North are many and varied. Food production is going down daily. Hundreds of thousands are being displaced from their homes. The economy has been shrinking. Poverty has nearly tripled. Education and healthcare have collapsed. And human capital has been depleted. This is the reality of the North. And it is not just the responsibility of the presidency. The governors must take responsibility for that. The northern elites who know and talk about these issues around, a table spread before them, but do nothing about it, are responsible for the impoverished state and nature of the North. And if that is not addressed, I'm sorry, you cannot defeat insecurity just by kinetic force. Now, let me go over to Mr. Peter Obi. He had quite, an interesting interview with, on another platform. And he was talking about his plans and doubled down on the fact that he would exit after 4 years. And there's that debate around, can a lot be done or can anything be done in governance in 4 years? The truth is that if you're looking at rebuilding a nation in the state that Nigeria is currently, it is impossible to rebuild it in 4 years. However, is it possible to lay a foundation that would catalyze or save or begin to define progress in a nation through certain policies? Absolutely. In the countries that have been recorded as successful, Lee Kuan Yew and all that, they didn't do it in 4 years. But at least in 4 years, you could see that they were on the right track, in the right direction. So it is possible to create some legacy policies that would change the direction of a nation. And I believe that is what Nigerians are calling for, even with this particular administration. Two of the main policies by the Tinubu administration in the first year in office, the removal of fuel subsidy, the unification of the floating of the naira, has been it started as good in the spirit of it, but it is the manner in which it's been done that has been criticized. And that is why they might have missed an opportunity, a critical opportunity to lay that foundation for the fact that Nigeria is being headed in the right direction. Can it be redeemed? Let's see. But I'm glad that Mr. Peter Obi in that interview highlighted some of the things he would do. He didn't give a lot of detail, but at least he was talking about areas where he would show up for insecurity, he would change, directions and the likes. But let's see how this goes up. What we're looking at towards 2027 is a festival of ideas, not just, personal slings and just insults. Rufai, your take on these stories?
And that's what I didn't see from the interview yesterday. I didn't see how. See, we can't run a country on vibes. And I must have to say that again. By now, if elections are in what? In January.
It's a few months, yeah.
We are in August. At first, we have not seen manifesto, 6 months to go.
Yeah.
Secondly, we are not seeing proper articulation of how you will do it. In fact, I think all candidates should stop telling us, I will do this. They should start telling us how. We should see an idea. It's the idea that we want to debate the workability of the idea. And that I didn't see. I didn't see a lot of that. We'll fix insecurity. How? And please, with fixing insecurity, people should stop telling us this, I don't want to share my operational details. Nobody is saying you should share your operational details. Because as a candidate, you can't have operational details. Operational details are specific to operations. Hence the name operational details. Nobody is saying you should share that. What we are saying is overarching details, methodology, how you are going to do it. That's just it. Methodology, even understanding. I mean, you can talk in the line of what you're even going to do to doctrine, military doctrine. What do you want to do? What kind of military do you want? Do you want an offensive fighting force? Do you want a modern aid military? What kind of military spending are you going to do? From the look of things, where do you think you can slant your firepower? Do you want to put in drones? Do you want to put in fighter jets and the likes? What kind of military do you want? What kind of equipment do you want for your military? Do you want to increase your naval firepower? Do you want to increase your intelligence firepower? Do you want to set up a new cyber security articulated vehicle in your military where you have a cybercom that can equally be used for intelligence gathering and tracking what is going on? What kind of military do you want? Do you want an agile military? Do you want a very nimble military? I mean, these are things as regards technicality and methodology. These are the things I want to hear from our candidates. Power sector, what would you do as regards them? About creating thousands of megawatts. Major problem in the power sector today is transmission. We have 13,000 installed capacity, but why are we not seeing more than 4,000 or 5,000 megawatts capacity for transmission? Are you going to put investment there? How are you going to raise the equity for the investment? I mean, those are paramount questions. So please, we want to see more of those details. And that's what we want to drill in to the brass tacks of in this season. Some recorded wins by the military, kudos to them. But also, it's also a very sore point that the bandits can still pick up an eye called George. Yeah. They can pick up an eye called George. That means they can pick up anybody. So we like the police to go in there to ensure that they get the job done. We hear rescues on the way, but we can't allow this to pester for too long. We need to be able to wind down insecurity and bring it to a point. Another point, very important point you made, Ayo, is you think these politicians do not know all you've talked about, improving this area, improving the sector. But in the long run, they cannot do it because they were the ones that created the problem. Because they wanted political talk. Ayo, fact check me if there have not been allegations that the beginning of Boko Haram was linked to politics. Fact check me if there have not been those allegations made in public space. So because they also need these people as vital tools. The other day, when, the governor of Niger State was saying that you can't say Enos was talking to preachers, I was very excited. And it was a very bold thing for Bago to say, because it was when these clerics and preachers are preaching these very ferocious messages, they are the ones too that also support them because they have followers. And they want their followers to vote for them. So I'm happy that people like Bago are already speaking up. Servicing that area, how is the money being spent? With all the money being spent, look from the NGOs, look at from all the ecosystem money is being spent. The politicians too, they're spending money, but it's not enough because people are not doing the right thing. I have had people from NGOs in the north come to me and tell me that, Rufai, this over $100 million we are spending in the north, we feel guilty. I said, why do you feel guilty? He said, look at the cars their politicians are driving. Look at the wealth in the hands of their elites. And we are spending all this money. Why are we the ones can't this system work for them? So that's what we are saying. But the real buck here is the politician. It stops with them. And a lot of them are not ready to do it because it's just about themselves. And that's why Nigerians, the next election matters. Like I've been giving this example because over the weekend, while I was going through some things, I was watching Super Story. Tony Tomato, who father or daughter was binge watching on it. And I said, see, there's Abike, that's Mama Dayo, which was the good wife, and Tony Tomato. Nigerians are like Swara. They have a choice between Abike, which was the good wife, and Tony Tomato. But the sad thing is that once they think everything is good, they leave the good person that wants to fix their problem, they leave Abike and go for Tony Tomato. And in the end, they start complaining when Tony Tomato ruins their life. That's exactly what happened to a lot. I just pray Nigerians don't vote for Tony Tomato in this election cycle because you have the power now. Do what is right. Let your votes count.
All right. I wonder who Tony Tomato, Abike, and Swara.
Let me start
Dr.
with
Martin.
the Independent National Electoral Commission, which made it clear yesterday that at a certain hour yesterday, there will be the final process with continuous voters registration. We have had two phases of that this year. The first phase ended in February, and then the second phase now, we're told, has ended. Now, civil society groups, political parties have also said, well, since the election is still far away, in January, February 2027, well, maybe not so far away, in terms of the consideration. INEC says the decision it has taken is in line with the provisions of the Electoral Act and its own guidelines, namely that they will have to stop the continuous voters registration in order to be able to collate data, to fact check and oversee data collected so far, so that the voters register, the comprehensive voters register, will be ready before the general elections last year, and that to further extend it will be to distort its own operations. But one major observation is that in the continuous voters registration process, youths constitute about 67.4% of newly registered voters for the 2027 general election. And that says something about our demographics. Each time we say Nigeria is a very youthful population, and now, of course, the register so far, the data collected so far, has shown that, in fact, young people constitute the majority of the new registrants on the register of INEC. However, the concern that has been generally expressed, we can see it in two ways. Does INEC still have the window to accommodate more registration of persons? INEC says no. Should INEC listen to civil society? Well, that again will depend on how much window that it has. But the truth of the matter that INEC has to worry about is the process itself. During that process, a lot of people said they were disenfranchised. So what happens to those persons? A lot of people said that in parts of the country where they tried to register, they were asked to pay by INEC officials, whether hard work or regular officials, before their names could be, recorded. So INEC has to worry about that. What will INEC do about such persons who have genuine complaints, even if at the end of the day, they do not carry out the extension, because that will also raise doubts. The second part of that line of argument is that Nigerians tend to wait till the very last minute. No matter the extension, whether it is for registration of SIM cards or for, registration for NIN or whatever other official document, it's always been a pattern that Nigerians will wait till the last minute, which is what is unfortunate. But they can consider all the issues and see what can be done. Now, as for the Nigerian Democratic Congress, NDC, he says he's going to lead the war against insecurity, corruption, and then rebuild the economy. That was Mr. Peter Obi speaking yesterday on television. Well, these are phrases. We will fight insecurity. We will rebuild the economy. I think that all the political parties, not just the NDC, should by now be engaging the Nigerian public with manifestos so that we have a proper outline of what they intend to do and what their contract is with the Nigerian voter and what the expectations of the people should be, so that if eventually any of these parties wins, we'll be able to hold them accountable and hold them down to the issues. And perhaps if they have a proper framing of what they are proposing to Nigerians, then of course the campaign, the process, the engagement process will be driven more by ideas rather than sentiments or specialization in name calling and insults, which we have already deployed on this table, that the people will be more interested in ideas. Now, Mr. Peter Obi used that platform to reiterate the point that he has held on to, that he will do only one term if elected. Well, that's left for people who want to believe him to believe him. But I'm skeptical about that, because my position is that, the reality of power is quite different from, promises. And the complexity of it, is also what we have to worry about. After a fashion in this country, when you are of a certain extraction, whether regional or ethnic or religious, the people will eventually remind you in the long run that you cannot do one term, because that mandate does not belong to you, because it's a mandate that belongs to all the people who have invested in that particular position. And that, like other Nigerians, you have to use your 2 terms that, we seem to have now rotated to your own part of the country. And that's a comment on the level of development of our politics in this country. But anyway, in any case, the promise is between him and his running mate. So let's see what happens if they win, so that we do not engage in prolonged speculation on a matter that we will all see. Then Mr. Peter Obi also advised President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He says he's tired, that the Tinubu that was governor in Lagos State is not the same man who is now president, and that he's tired, he should go home. I'm sure Mr. Peter Obi himself knows that, that advice is not likely to be taken. In fact, I've been checking whether Mr. Bayo Ononuga will quickly issue a response and abuse him and remind him that nobody, as they see it, is looking for his advice. But if he gets around to it, I will see it. But I don't think that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will take his advice. Now, to take the final subject, the president was represented by Malam Ibrahim Masari at the Hassan Katsina Memorial event in Kaduna. And of course, the president used that opportunity to reassure Nigerians that he would tackle headlong insecurity in northern Nigeria. Well, maybe he was talking about insecurity in northern Nigeria because the ADC, the African Democratic Congress, and also actually Northern Elders, I think Northern Elders Forum and this same Arewa Consultative Forum had before now, shortly after the Orire kidnapped victims were rescued, had reminded the president that persons had also been abducted in Kayama, Borno State, in Askira Uba, and in other parts of the north. And that why, for example, are the people in Woro who were kidnapped in Woro is in Kwara State. Why is it that almost getting close to 200 days now, they've not been rescued? And their argument at that time was that this rescue effort is becoming selective. So, but in response to that, the president said, no, insecurity will be taken seriously, headlong, in the northern part of the country. Well, it's not just the northern part of the country. I dare say every part of the country should be taken seriously. After all, the government will be discharging its responsibility under Section 14, Sub 2B of the Constitution, which says the security and welfare of the citizen shall be the welfare of the people. But he talked about other things: energy, transportation, infrastructure, in a whole of society approach, which is what government has been saying consistently.